I proposed to my first love. Frank, let's get married. Right after my 20th birthday, I asked him out and proposed to him. If I didn't get married now, the system would assign me to someone. In the Empire, once a top-tier Omega turned 20, he would be entered into the marriage assignment program and matched by any top-tier Alpha. If the pheromone compatibility was above 60%, the pairing would be forced, whether the Omega agreed or not. In reality, Omegas didn't get to choose their own marriages, but I couldn't be chosen. I needed to choose someone I at least knew and trusted. Instinctively, I thought of Frank. Frank was perfect, always the golden boy in everyone's eyes. He worked in the Empire's first-class genetic research institute, a prestigious and rare position. He was just a bit cold, but honestly, him being quiet suited me. I preferred him that way. He stared at me, frozen, shock filling his eyes. He didn't say a word. Only then did I remember, he was still waiting for that white moonlight who had disappeared 7 years ago. You still don't want to? Alright, Henry, let's get married. He cut me off immediately, then glanced out the cafe window. Today, the weather's good. Okay. My mind went blank. Before I processed anything, I had already agreed. 2. A premarital exam was something every Omega and Alpha had to take. Generally, a compatibility over 60% was passing, above 80% was good, and above 90% was excellent. Only those above 60% could register for marriage. Pheromone compatibility, 10%. When the result came out, I was stunned. This compatibility was basically a cosmic joke. Even pairing with a random dog wouldn't be this low. Maybe we should drop this. I can find someone else. I couldn't drag Frank into this just because I was about to be assigned to a stranger. Find someone else. Not every Alpha treats an Omega gently. Before I finished speaking, his cool voice cut me off. Frank glanced at me, his beautiful eyes locked on mine. Every year, countless Omegas die from being trapped with top-tier Alphas in their unstable periods. Someone like you, if you were assigned, you wouldn't survive. He spoke calmly as he folded up the report and tossed it into the trash, then made a call. I had no idea who he called or what he said. He just gave 2 quiet responses. After that, our marriage certificate was issued. The whole thing went so smoothly it felt unreal. 3. After getting the certificate, we didn't return to either of our families. He drove me straight to a nearby royal hotel. He seemed in a hurry, but his expression didn't show much. Why are we coming to a hotel? Can't we go back to the apartment? My apartment was nearby, and even his estate was only a few hours away. Marking. If we go home now, we'll get questioned. We won't have time to handle this. The moment he started unbuttoning his clothes, panic shot through me. You want to permanently mark me? Permanent marking affected both an Alpha and an Omega. Even with our low compatibility, the pain and impact were the same. Possibly worse. Temporary marking. You wouldn't be able to handle a permanent mark before your heat cycle. As he spoke, he tugged off his tie. His pale neck was exposed, unexpectedly distracting. I sat on the edge of the bed, sweat forming on my forehead. Watching him calmly take off his jacket, I swallowed hard. Wait, we don't have to do all this. I thought we were entering a marriage by agreement, but he seemed ready to fulfill the obligations of an actual marriage. He removed the golden cufflinks on his wrist and looked at me. If we don't mark, how are we supposed to pretend our compatibility is high? If we don't meet the required standard, the marriage will be annulled. By the time he said that, he was down to just his shirt and leaning toward me. His cool hand brushed my cheek. Omegas are supposed to react strongly to Alphas. I wonder if you're the same. His voice felt like a feather brushing the inside of my chest, strangely ticklish. I stared into his eyes as he leaned closer, his hand touching my chest while he started unbuttoning my shirt. Our compatibility is low. A mark from me will hurt, but you'll have to get used to it. With a soft click, he unfastened my button. My breath hitched. I grabbed his hand, confused and anxious. Do we really need to take off our clothes for a temporary mark? Wasn't it just a bite to the gland at the back of the neck? Frank twisted his hand, pinned my wrist, and pushed me onto the bed. We fell onto the soft mattress. The impact jolted up my spine. His hair fell forward, shadowing the coolness in his eyes. You need to adjust in advance. As soon as he finished speaking, a surge of strong pheromones washed over me. The scent of strong liquor seeped through my bones, as if trying to melt me from the inside. The burn made me frown instantly, the pain swallowed me whole. The overwhelming rejection made my body tremble uncontrollably. I tried to push him away on instinct, but he pinned my wrists and dragged me closer. Let go. The pain made my voice rise. Let go. It's a little late for that now. 4. The days after being marked, all I felt was pain. Everywhere hurt. His pheromones had fused into my bones. It was unbearable. Frank moved into my apartment to take care of me. Frank, don't you feel uncomfortable? If an alpha marks an omega with such low compatibility, shouldn't he feel it too? It would be cruel if it only affected the omega. I half lay on the sofa, touching the back of my neck as I asked. A burning sensation lingered, and it felt like a little blood had seeped through. I'm fine, he said, leaning over and holding my hand. When I marked you, I didn't quite control myself. I bit a little too deep. So, do you alphas always mark like this? No matter the compatibility, every omega just got marked like it was nothing. Suddenly, I remembered he had someone in his heart. I lowered my eyes and whispered, it doesn't matter, as long as it's not that person. No, he replied simply, then pulled my wrist, pressing me against the sofa, and kissed my neck. You're different. Just then, my phone rang. Buzz buzz buzz. The sound interrupted him. I glanced at the phone. It was an unknown number. Hello? Who's this? I put it on speaker and set it on the sofa, pulling Frank back to respond to my kiss. These days, because of the mark, I depended on him a lot. He only had to make a small move, and I wanted to respond. It's me, Jason. Hearing that name, my body froze. I looked at Frank, startled, and his eyes instantly locked on my phone. Jason, Frank's white moonlight. 5. Jason had been arranged as Frank's fiancé by his family. If their compatibility was high, the two families would marry them off. Hey, are you listening? The voice on the phone snapped me back. Oh, yes. What's up? I answered, glancing at Frank, sitting up, and straightening my clothes. I'm back in the country. As he spoke, Frank picked up my phone. I saw his expression change. He frowned. So, he's trying to reignite old feelings. Sure enough, someone who hasn't contacted you in years doesn't just call for nothing. This guy was here to stake a claim on Frank. I'm of marriageable age too, he continued, probably trying to boast. I saw Frank's face darken. I didn't let him finish. I snatched the phone, holding it in my own hand. I pushed Frank onto the sofa, then leaned down and kissed his lips, voice low. Want to rekindle old flames with your white moonlight? Too bad, we're married. Even with our low compatibility, I wasn't about to divorce Frank. Frank raised an eyebrow, leaning close to my ear. Do you dare? His voice was low, but I heard it clearly, my ears turning red. My fingers brushed the buttons on his shirt. I glanced at the still ringing phone, bent down, kissed his ear, and whispered, I dare. Then I looked at the screen, voice proud. Jason, you're back and want to marry Frank. Why don't you guess where he is right now? I smiled, not hanging up, and started undoing Frank's shirt. 6. After messing around with Frank all night, I woke up, but he was gone. I checked my phone and saw the unknown number had called for 480 minutes. Jason stayed on the line all night. Unbelievable. I frowned. That Jason was definitely crazy. I tossed the phone aside and noticed a note. I'm going to meet Jason and clarify things. Rest well. Rest? I've been asleep forever. I muttered, tearing the note and tossing it in the trash, annoyed. Frank went to see his white moonlight, leaving me to wait quietly. No way. Luckily, I had a tracking app on his phone. Originally, it was for quickly finding him during my heat. Now, it could help me catch him. The location showed a bar. I quickly got dressed and headed straight there. The private room was easy to find. Just a little asking around, and I was there. Outside the door, a strong, heated musk filled the air, plus Frank's liquor scent. No omega scent, just two alphas. I froze. How could this be alphas? Wasn't Frank meeting Jason? The door suddenly opened. The person at the door wore an off-white coat, handsome, taller than me by a shoulder. His hair fell on his shoulders, and the musk hit me instantly. Yo, Henry, 7 years, and you've shrunk a bit. He smiled, bent forward, and inhaled my scent. Sweet orange omega, smells great. No wonder you two went crazy last night. I raised my eyes, smirking, a bit proud. Well, thanks for staying up all night listening. Frank stood behind Jason, smiling at my comment. Jason raised an eyebrow, leaning casually against the door. Not tired. Believe me, if it were me, I wouldn't have let you off in just one night. 7. This audio is originally produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. Please credit when sharing. Jason laughed, scanning me from head to toe. Frank's eyes went cold. He stepped forward, grabbed Jason by the collar, and threw him onto the sofa. Stay away from him. Jason landed on the couch but still laughed. Frank, do you even know what high compatibility means? He glanced at me, elegantly removing his coat, lips pressed together. High compatibility means, one finger from an alpha, and the omega has to kneel. Jason spoke nonsense about compatibility. I just thought he was crazy. My attention wasn't on him, it was on Frank. I wondered why I was so happy that Frank's white moonlight had turned out to be an alpha. Suddenly, I sensed something was off. The air filled with musk from all directions. Unlike Frank's pheromones fused into my blood, which had been painful, this musk hit my nerves instantly. I could feel it in every breath. If Frank hadn't marked me, I probably would have knelt. The source? Jason, sitting calmly on the sofa. Frank noticed my reaction, sending calming pheromones, but it wasn't enough. His scent couldn't compete with that overwhelming musk. I leaned into Frank, trying to steady my racing blood, but I couldn't calm down. Frank, do you smell that? This scent. It was intoxicating. Before I could finish, heat spread through me, unbearable. I felt like I was entering heat early. Jason sat there calmly, watching me fidget in Frank's arms. See? This is high compatibility. If I want him to kneel, he kneels. His last words carried a hint of mockery. Frank, a gift for seeing you, no need to thank me. For the first 7 days of my fever cycle, I was out of my mind for nearly half of it. It wasn't until the 4th day that I finally regained some clarity, though the heat still burned beneath my skin. This was the longest fever cycle I had experienced since my differentiation. When my mind cleared enough, we had already arrived at Frank's estate. I noticed he had changed into a higher collared shirt, though the faint marks I left on his neck could still be seen. I didn't bother getting out of bed. Leaning against the headboard, I simply watched him peel an apple with a fruit knife. You didn't permanently mark me? He hadn't done it, during my fever cycle of all times. If one wanted to complete a permanent mark, an Omega's fever cycle was the best possible moment. No, your mind wasn't clear. I didn't want to force you. Frank's voice was calm, gentle even. For some reason, his answer made something inside me sink. You didn't force me. I hesitated, then murmured, next time, just do the permanent mark. You don't need my permission. I had to be tougher with myself, even if I feared the pain. But still, somewhere deep down, I wanted Frank to mark me permanently. Frank glanced at me. All right, he agreed too quickly, and I looked away, suddenly unsure of myself. I couldn't tell if he was angry. After all, I had fallen into my fever cycle because of Jason's pheromones. I'm sorry. I couldn't control it. It was true. The sensation was like being swallowed by a sudden tide, trying to break free, scrambling toward the surface, only to be dragged down again. I know. High compatibility does that. He calmly offered me the peeled apple. Next time, once I permanently mark you, it'll be fine. Frank's steady composure eased me more than I expected. I bit into the apple, soothing my sore throat. Where's Jason? I regretted asking the moment the words left my lips. Frank's hand, wiping the fruit knife, suddenly paused. His gaze lowered to the blade. When he finished cleaning it, the metal glinted sharply. Jason? His pheromones were impressive, weren't they? His tone was cool, too cool. I swallowed hard, staring at his profile. I didn't dare speak again. I didn't even dare take another bite of the apple. Frank was acting strangely. 9. I admit it, I'm not a saint. My possessiveness toward Frank runs deep. Worried Jason might try to contact Frank again or cause trouble, I quietly ordered my family to look into Jason's movements. I wanted to use influence to pressure him, maybe even send him abroad. But the report came back. The Empire has received no record of Jason returning. That made no sense. Frank and I had both seen him. How could there be no travel record? A few more days passed. My fever cycle ended. But still, no trace of Jason. He had appeared out of nowhere, and vanished just as abruptly. Frank remained unusually calm, taking care of me every day. But I could tell he was busy, his phone calls increased, and I overheard phrases like experiment and low compatibility. Is Jason missing? Is it because of you? He was reading documents on his computer while I sipped the warm milk he'd made me. He's not missing. He's in my lab, cooperating on my research. Frank answered without hesitation. He finally looked at me, his beautiful eyes cool and indifferent. Are you worried about him? Why would I worry about him? I'm asking how he ended up working with you. Clearly, we were concerned with totally different things. Jason studied finance. Frank specialized in genetic engineering. They were worlds apart. How could they possibly be working together? At that moment, Frank's phone lit up with a new message. Immediately after, my own phone buzzed. It was a text from my father. Son, your old man found you a high-compatibility marriage partner. It's your childhood friend, Jason. I stared at the screen, frowning at the absurdity. I replied, I already registered with Frank. Don't worry about my marriage. I'll bring him home in a few days. 10. After replying, I turned off my phone and continued the earlier topic. So what exactly is he doing in your lab? If he can work with you, then so can I. Even though my major was foreign languages, I figured I was still more qualified than Jason. Frank was peeling another apple. A beam of light fell across him, outlining his cool elegance. He handed me a slice, and I tossed it into my mouth, waiting. Do you know what the experiment is? He lowered his gaze, asking suddenly. What experiment? Genetic pairing? I asked casually. His attention lingered on the knife. He twirled the blade lightly between his fingers. I thought, since you like his scent, I could remove his gland and give it to you. How about that? My chewing froze. Judging from his expression, he wasn't joking. Frank never joked. Images flashed through my mind. Frank trapping Jason, cutting out his gland. I struggled to swallow the apple and finally managed. Frank, removing an alpha's gland is illegal. One wrong step and his entire life could be destroyed. It's fine. My research authorization allows certain procedures. As long as I stay within the limits, I can acquire any alpha gland I want. He glanced at me. Seeing I was stunned, he leaned in and brushed a kiss against my lips. Scared? I kissed him back after a beat. Not scared, just overwhelmed. Why would you do that? I guess because. He pulled me into his arms. His pheromones, warm with a faint note like white liquor, washed over me, stealing my breath. If I had a choice, I'd remove my own gland and exchange it with Jason's. His hands tightened on my shoulders. I felt the tremor of his pheromones. 11. That way, the one most compatible with you wouldn't be him. It would be me. Frank spoke as he brushed his fingers over my lips, his gaze burning. During my first sensitivity period, right after adulthood, I wanted to mark you, but I was afraid, so I kept my distance. I stared at him, stunned. Back then, I thought Frank's mood swings were because he hadn't heard from Jason overseas. I never imagined. When I was 18, the moment I saw you, I wanted to drag you into my apartment. When you were 19, your fever cycle hit at school. With all those alphas going wild over you, I wanted to mark you right in front of them. The more he spoke, the more unrestrained he became. My mind could barely catch up. Was he saying, Frank, do you, like, yes, I like you. I've liked you since we were kids. Before I could react, he kissed me, urgent, overwhelming. He tugged lightly, and my clothes loosened with ease. His sudden confession stunned me long enough that by the time I regained myself, he had already lifted me onto the bed. Henry, you said I don't need to ask before permanently marking you. His hair fell around us, his cool eyes burning with heat and expectation. The soft lighting filled the room. My heart raced uncontrollably. I grabbed his wrist, then pulled him down into a kiss. As expected, a permanent mark between partners with low compatibility came with a price. I was bedridden for 3 days, unable to move. On the 4th day, when I could finally shift around, I released some pheromones, trying to tease him. Does my scent affect you now? Frank nuzzled against my neck, whispering near my ear, whenever I look at you, I want to. His voice was low enough to make my ears burn. You're listening to Omegaverse Tales Studio, a YouTube channel dedicated to captivating short stories. Let's continue. 12. Frank carried me to the bath, and we sat together in the tub. I finally asked the question that had been bothering me for years. You didn't like Jason, and yet you waited for him for 7 years? My secret delight that his former love had become an alpha flickered. Frank frowned, a hint of confusion in his eyes. Who said I liked Jason? And what makes you think I waited for him 7 years? You didn't like him. Then why were you miserable for 3 months after he left? I remembered those days, Frank wandering around like a ghost, as if he had lost something precious. At that time, I was sad because you had differentiated. Our pheromones didn't match, he said calmly. It hit me. After my first differentiation, Jason had left the country. Frank had ignored me for a long while after that. Was he really upset because our pheromones didn't match? How did you know our compatibility was low? I asked. I hadn't known myself. You had just differentiated. I took a sample of your hair to check, Frank said, lowering his gaze. Later, I studied genetic engineering to figure out ways to deal with low compatibility pairings. Hearing him recount these years, I felt unexpectedly moved. Then, why didn't you confess? No wonder he had agreed to marry me so quickly. He had been aiming for me all along, yet his behavior over the years had given no sign of deep affection. Because I was afraid if I confessed, you wouldn't like me back. We wouldn't even be able to stay friends. His voice softened as he hugged me tightly. But I had already planned to use some means, so when the Empire assigned your marriage, I'd bind you to me. I was stunned. So even if the Empire arranged a match for me, it would still be you. Yes. Unless something unexpected happens, it would be me. Frank answered calmly, and I fell silent. Great. Proposed too soon. Should have waited a little longer. 13. I worried that Frank might do something extreme to Jason, risking himself. After all, Jason wasn't someone to be trifled with. So we went to the lab together. I had imagined Jason lying on a lab bed, tubes attached, motionless and studied. But instead, "Hey, Frank, today's meal is low on meat. I want beef," Jason said, sitting in Frank's lab in his lab coat, looking like a little emperor. I couldn't help smirking. Honestly, even without Frank, I felt like taking his gland myself. "Oh, Henry, you've been permanently marked?" Frank's scent is strong. He glanced at Frank and smiled. "Congrats. You got what you wanted." Frank shot him a look but didn't speak. Jason smiled, but I still caught the loneliness flickering in his eyes. I nudged Frank. "Go on out. I need to talk to Jason alone." Some things I still wanted to ask Jason directly. Frank looked at me, slightly reluctant, but he stepped out. He knew that after permanently marking me, Jason's pheromones had little effect on me. Once Frank left, Jason's gaze lingered on where Frank had gone, pensive. "Staring at someone else's husband is rude," I said, pulling up a chair and showing my displeasure. Jason chuckled and sat down. "I wouldn't dare. That day, when you went into your fever, he nearly tried to extract my gland with a wine bottle." He leaned forward, lifting his collar to show the scar on his neck. I froze. He actually tried? I hadn't expected Frank would really consider taking Jason's gland. "Yeah, you can see he loves you. Henry, do you love him?" Jason looked at me expectantly. I lowered my gaze, thinking seriously, and answered in my heart, yes. If I didn't love Frank, I wouldn't have panicked during the marriage arrangement. I wouldn't have proposed to him immediately. By now, I was already bound to him emotionally. Jason nodded, smiling. "Then that's enough. He's good in every way, he just doesn't express his feelings." He sighed quietly, a little lonely. "I can let go now." "You really liked him?" Even though Frank was mine now, I still wanted a clear answer. "Yeah, I liked him." That simple confession startled me. I felt Jason's emotions behind it. Even as an alpha, I liked him. I liked him enough that I would have cut my gland for him if he asked. Although, he wouldn't take it. Jason's expression became serious. He looked at me with a tinge of envy. "I'm jealous of you. You're an Omega." I never even got a chance to tell him I liked him. 14. Jason lowered his head and chuckled bitterly. From childhood crush to differentiation, it all feels like a joke now. I watched him, his sadness making me want to speak. I had envied him for years too. "I remember, when you and Frank were kids, I felt like the outsider. In a trio, one always feels superfluous." Jason shook his head with a smile. "You don't know. Actually, it was me telling him I liked you. Whoever won the games got to pursue you." He trailed off, staring down, letting out a deep, resigned sigh. "It's fine, all in the past." I patted his shoulder. "Being an alpha isn't so bad. High status, easy access to power. In the family, board members usually recommend alphas as heirs." "I actually wanted to marry you," Jason suddenly said. I froze. My hand on his shoulder paused. "Marry me? Jason, are you crazy?" I blurted it out, instinctively judging him. He had always been a little unhinged, but now even more so. Jason looked up at me, snorting. "If I can't have Frank, nobody can. We'll go down together." My face darkened. Go down together? Lucky for him I acted first. Sure enough, if you want a man, act fast or someone else will take him. But, seeing him work hard for your future experiments, I changed my mind, Jason added, stopping me from speaking my mind. I nodded, thoughtful. Right, no need to obsess over Frank. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. 15. I asked about the experiments Jason and Frank were working on. It was something called Pheromone compatibility fusion research. I knew it wasn't dangerous, and since it was approved by the Empire and confidential, I didn't pry further. Jason ended up staying in Frank's lab, supposedly to assist with ongoing experiments. I took Frank back to my family home, and the family was pressing hard about my marriage. My father received Frank, and my eldest brother led me to his study. The atmosphere felt tense. Sure enough, having Frank permanently mark me before returning home was the right choice. "Brother, you handle Empire matters. Why meddle in my marriage?" I said. My brother was an Empire-level commander, a second-phase Enigma, so the family didn't interfere much with me. "Cancel your engagement, and remove the permanent mark at the lab," he said, placing the annulment document before me. "Don't be overbearing, and don't command me as if I'm one of your subordinates," I snapped, picked up the document, and tossed it straight into the trash. "I won't divorce him. Compatibility under 60, it won't be a happy marriage," my brother said calmly, as if stating an undeniable fact. "I am happy. At least, every day with Frank, I feel happy," I said firmly. "Is that so? Did Frank tell you that low compatibility makes it hard for Omega reproductive glands to open, and that having children with him would be difficult?" "What?" I froze. Frank had never told me this. I had asked before how low compatibility affected alphas, but Frank always said it didn't matter. Compatibility also affects an omega's chances of conceiving. Otherwise, why would the Empire restrict low compatibility matches? His words made me stop in my tracks. I trembled slightly. I had my brother, our family could handle it. But Frank, he was the sole heir. Would his family accept it? I faltered, panic rising. It felt like something precious was being stripped away, and there was nothing I could do but watch. Click. The study door suddenly opened. Frank and my father stood at the threshold. Seeing Frank, my eyes burned with sudden tears. He came over, touched my shoulder, and held me tightly. Let's go. Father agreed. We can go home now. I glanced at my father. To my surprise, he nodded approvingly. Yes. Your marriage arrangements will be discussed. Don't worry. 16. Frank and I got into the car, but I felt uneasy. Even though my father had approved our engagement, doubts lingered. Frank, maybe we should. A screech of brakes cut me off. The car halted abruptly. It was dark, the street empty except for the glow of streetlights. I faintly sensed Frank's pheromone shift. Unlike before, this time it was intensely fiery. Are you trying to leave me? I asked, sensing his anger. His hands gripped the wheel tightly. He didn't look at me, but I could feel his fury radiating. I sat in the passenger seat, dizzy, whether from his pheromones or the day's events, I didn't know. I'm not. I hadn't finished speaking when he unbuckled, turned to me, and pressed against me. The overwhelming pheromones made it hard to breathe. Frank, an A-class alpha, could suppress any omega with ease if he chose. I frowned and pushed him slightly. Frank, calm down. I can't. My heat cycle has started. He grabbed my wrist, his eyes red, fixed on my lips, and kissed me. I don't want to hear anything I don't want to hear. His voice was hoarse, his need for control obvious. His grip on my wrist hurt. Frank, let go. I tried to push him away. The seat behind me sank under his weight. His kiss moved to my neck. I won't let go. This life, I'll never let you go. His heat cycle lasted roughly 3 days. During that time, his emotions were intense, and I didn't say much. Even though our pheromones weren't fully compatible, being permanently marked made it less painful. By the time he calmed down, I nearly forgot what I wanted to say. This story is exclusively produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. 17. Until I received the formal engagement invitation and notice of their family gathering. Frank, did you see? Your family and the consortium officially announced the engagement, I said. I was puzzled. They agreed so easily. Didn't they worry about our low compatibility? Come see which ring you like, Frank said, showing me sketches of rings he had designed. I picked one and tilted my head. Why did your family approve the engagement? I really wanted to know. Low compatibility usually meant marriage wasn't allowed, right? Because I completed the experiment on compatibility effects. I verified the pros and cons of low compatibility, and the feasibility of artificial in vitro conception, he explained, using technical terms I barely understood. In short, low compatibility made marking the omega slightly more painful, but for the alpha, there was little difference. Hearing that, I felt relieved. 3 months later, Frank and I had our wedding. Jason attended, then left after Frank's experiments concluded. Before leaving, he left a letter. He claimed he was seeking a way to become a beta. Once successful, he'd return. Then the 3 of us could live in harmony forever. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. Frank, Jason isn't over you. Maybe you should just take his gland, I said, lying on the bed eating fruit while he reviewed documents on the sofa. Frank didn't even glance at Jason's letter. He looked up at me. Our love transcends compatibility. He's no threat. I raised an eyebrow and smiled. True. There is a kind of love beyond instinct, rooted in the heart. Frank, I love you, I confessed from the bed. Emicham, I love you too, he said. He set aside the documents, removed his shirt, and walked toward me. At the bedside, he bent down, kissing my neck. Being overwhelmed by his pheromones still stung a little, but it didn't matter. We loved only each other and wanted only each other.